Hey folks, welcome back. So we left off the previous lesson with the promise of talking about factors and how to represent nominal and ordinal data. I would hate to disappoint, so let's get right into it. I will create a vector called marital status, and it will hold information about a bunch of people and their relationships with their significant others, in the face of law. Marital status, married, single, married, divorced, widowed, divorced. Now, if I type str and pass my vector, R returns the structure of the object I give it. In this case, marital status is a character vector with 7 elements. R doesn't realize this variable is actually a factor. Hopefully, you realize that it is since you've already seen the previous lesson. So, to make it into a factor variable, I can use the built-in factor function. Right. It is kind of curious what R returns. A data structure where the elements are no longer characters, notice that they're missing the quotation marks, and an additional clarification underneath letting us know that marital status has 4 levels, or 4 categories: divorced, married, single, and widowed. Now why does this happen? Well, calling the factor function triggers 2 actions. R examines the data it's given for the presence of different categories, in this case, the 4 possible relationship statuses, and then it converts the data structure into a structure of integer values. We can confirm that all of this is true by calling the typeof and str functions. See? The new object is a factor that's of the integer basic type, and the integers that make up the data are found here. 1 corresponds to divorced, 2 to married, 3 to single, and so on. Okay, but this only begs another question. So why are the levels sorted like this? Divorced, married, single. This is not the order in which R encountered the elements in my initial object, nor is it the frequency of occurrence. This is an alphabetical order. If no level order is explicitly specified, R's default is to organize them alphabetically. Alright, the lack of order might work for a variable like this one, a nominal variable, but it will most definitely not suffice for an ordinal variable where there is actually some inherent order to the levels, and that order is paramount for analysis and interpretation. Luckily, the factor function takes a couple of arguments that allow us to manually organize our factor levels. To set the levels of our factor differently, we can use the levels argument. It looks something like this. Okay, let's check the structure again. Well, the encoding is different now, and 1 corresponds to single instead of divorced as it did in the previous time. Fantastic! Okay, there is a function in R called levels that allows us to modify the names of our factor levels. It works exactly like the names function and the callnames function. You just pass a vector of the new names you want your levels to have, and voila! But just be careful. The order in which you enter the new names should match the order of your levels inside of the factor. There is an alternative to this type of naming. You can specify your levels' names directly in your factor function. The labels argument makes sure we can do that. Like this. Amazing. Okay, another thing you can do is assign order to your factor levels. Do you remember what happens when factor levels are ordered? Yep, the variable becomes ordinal. it starts to represent a meaningful relationship between factor levels. So, how do you go about assigning order to levels? Well, you use the ordered argument in the factor function. The default value is set to false, so when we change it, the function will take the level order you've specified and will encode your levels as comparable. Right. Now let's print the variable and see if that worked. Yeah, can you notice the comparison indicators right there? This is what we were trying to achieve, a relative ranking of the marital status levels. Nice. Alright, that is it for this lesson. We will talk a little bit more about categorical variables and dummy coding when we reach the statistics section of the course, but for now, great job everyone! Thanks for watching, and may the code be with you.